Hey everybody, hope you're all well. Today I'm 150 days sober, and well, when I post this, probably a little bit more, but right now we're talking to me in the past. But yeah, I've been doing these sort of like updates, check ins, sort of things at like 50-day intervals, and it wasn't really initially planned, but I think it's a good amount of time to have some experiences and some obstacles, challenges, successes to like check back in on. And I think it's a good way to kind of like diagram the early stages of recovery, because like at 50 days there is like the band-aid rip sort of phase where you're going through like the acute withdrawals, the detox, and then there's the first couple weeks of like shakiness if you're not on the pink cloud or whatever they call it. And then there's more getting out of the fog. And about at 50 days, for me, it seemed like the fog lasted a little bit longer, but I was fully out of it. And then at like 100 days, another nice round number, but at 100 days, it it was just, it's past like the 90-day mark, obviously. But one thing that, at least in my life, and I saw in a lot of other people, the 90-day, 3-month mark was, kind of a crossroads a lot of times, where it was like this sort of period where a lot of people would relapse, and that could be because of post-acute withdrawal syndrome. It could be when certain symptoms flare up, or maybe a person is now getting out of the pink cloud and back into sort of like reality, whatever you want to call that, and adjusting to life more, kind of like a downshift. Like after the first 100 days, maybe you were super hyper vigilant and super going into recovery. A lot of people do like 90 meetings in 90 days or things like that. And then you're starting, you're not putting recovery to the back seat or anything, but you're starting to downshift and starting to focus a little bit more on life, and what you want to do with it. A question you ask is like, all right, if I'm clean and sober, I'm gonna do this thing. What do I want my life to be, or what is my life going to be, depending on how young or old you are, how young and old you feel. And now at like 150 days, it's to me it feels like another level of that, but in a sort of different way, like sort of like really looking at changes. And what I always think about is that people, with the thing people post a lot about recovery is sort of those like, well, the weight loss type of like day one, day whatever, like physical transformation. And you see people that like, this is what I look like at day one. They're like a zombie, like sunken eyes, super pale skin, googly eyes a little bit, and then like 3 years later, this is what I look like. And I think about it like, for me, the funny thing is probably after like 2 months, the way I looked then, if I've been in recovery, is probably the way I'll look like 5 years from now, barring anything, I don't know, crazy happening. But for the most part, it's funny because people show off like those transformations, the physical ones, because they're the most tangible, the ones that can be seen. You can't see what's in here or here. Thank God for me sometimes, but it's something easy to show, and I think it's funny because it's the most noticeable one. Yet it's still important, but it's really like the lesser on my list of like stuff that I really want to change about myself. And we're just talking about external health things, like physical stuff internally. You're talking about like liver enzymes or like neurological stuff can take much, much longer to heal. But the truth is like, to go from like Walking Dead David to like, pretty normal, chill, like healthy seeming David, it doesn't actually take that long. And, what it really becomes for me, and now, like after 150 days, it kind of, for me at least, has become this idea of, okay, we're learning that drugs and alcohol were the problem, but also not quite the problem, in a sense, where now we're looking at things about myself, the behaviors that you may have that go beyond drugs and alcohol. You're talking about things like impulsivity and codependency, and especially if you have, like I do, like if you have other like underlying mental health issues, like if you're co-occurring or something like that. And now this is the time where it's just like, all right, we're really going to look at these things and have to, take it upon yourself to work on those. Because I could also say too that you can be 150 days sober. You could be longer than that and not have made any real sort of changes besides just the not drinking or the not using. And what I've been looking at is really seeing more in myself of learning about like, okay, drugs and alcohol were about like escape. It was about relief from from sort of pain or just discomfort with life. Like, why was I so drawn to that? Why did I feel like I needed that? And how am I going to adjust to life without that? Because, at least for me, I've had this sense now to where it's like, okay, now you're just with you and your life. You're sober and you're looking at either, again, what your life is going to be, what the rest of it's going to be. What do we want to do with this thing? Like, it's a sense of like, all right, now we're really working on change, and not just, again, the physical change where you lose the bags under your eyes and, you like, it's funny. There's some people where they don't like all the transformation, because a lot of people, whether they're on stimulants or if you're like me, when you're drinking, you actually like lost a lot of weight. You're super skinny, but just from like starvation. So you gain some healthy weight and you're like, all right, enough with the healthy weight. I don't like all this weight. So, and I bring that up just because kind of how fickle, or I guess you could all just superficial, the actual physical changes are. If you were just looking at that to sort of transform yourself, how you look to the world, I don't know, you might kind of feel empty by day 150, because you learn this is about much, much more. And so what I've been like focusing on is I've been dealing with some stuff that has really tested me. And the funny thing is all the stuff that people think would test me. I tore my meniscus and ACL, and I've gone through that whole sort of like separate recovery process and everything like that. And had a couple things happen in my life with like past relationships and stuff. And a lot of it has been now focusing on how do I respond to life, and what is my, one of my big issues was just this always sort of looking forward, this always sense of like, I will be happy when I get this job, get in this relationship, accomplish this thing, and then I will be happy. And I was always leaving myself shortchanged in the present moment. And I think that's a huge part, because here's the one thing too that I've learned is that regardless of how much you improve your life, if you're looking to the outside things for your fulfillment, the goalposts are always going to move, baby. You may have been at a point where like, I just want a roof over my head. If I had a car, that would be cool. A nice hot shower. That's all I need. And then maybe, a couple months later, you're like, okay, I need a little bit more than that. And for me, it was really working on like, hey, regardless of where you're at in your life, you got to learn to be happy. Or for me, and this has been a big thing in this, this round of recovery, and again, hopefully my last, or the one that keeps going, is that maybe this is not about pursuing happiness anymore. I don't think I've been very good at like chasing happiness. I think it's only led me back to drugs and alcohol. And so this is about meaning and purpose. And now you're trying to find that within your life, just in your life, as like, because I don't know, one thing for me, and I always respect what drugs and alcohol did for me. I always respect like why I did them, basically. And drugs and alcohol would kind of numb me to what my life really was, or in this weird way, maybe it was just from chaos, but it made my life feel more exciting, or it made me more engaged with whatever I was doing. But now that I don't have that, I have to really like appreciate or care about my life, or find it significant, regardless of what I'm doing. One thing that's been about me, I've always been like about pursuing this next project or big venture in my life. And then it's like, hey, what if we're not doing that? We're just kind of like, and this is not about being complacent, but we're just going through life in this normal way. Are you okay with being normal? You, David, kept asking when you were in the thick of it, like, oh, I just wish I had a normal life. It's like, hey, man, now that you got one, what do we think? And sometimes I'm like, I don't actually like this. I don't want the chaos and misery. I don't want normal. I want a third thing that, again, this has been a big adjustment towards life itself. I feel like at this spot where I'm at currently, this is not to say I don't have urges or thoughts, and every once in a while, some cravings for drugs and alcohol, but it's really been more, thinking about, okay, the big thing was you wanted to take your life back. All right. Why did we want to do that? If you feel like you've taken your life back, now what are we going to do with it? And that's something, still working on. So all of you out there on your own journeys of recovery, or you're thinking about it, or, you started, stopped it, and you're just looking for your way, I honestly, I wish you the best. And, here's to meeting you guys at day 200. I don't know.